"Run now, don't ask questions, just run." Those were the words a complete stranger whispered in his ear during what was supposed to be the most important dinner of his life. Within the next 20 minutes, he would discover why his fiancée's family had really invited him to that restaurant, and why dozens of people had disappeared after similar dinners. But by then, it might already be too late. Mario is having dinner with his fiancée and in-laws when the waitress tells him to run away. Before we dive into this chilling story, hit that subscribe button because you won't believe what happens next. This is a story about betrayal, family secrets, and a dinner invitation that almost cost someone their life. Let's begin. October 18th, 2019, Chicago. The restaurant was called La Famiglia, an upscale Italian establishment in the heart of downtown. The kind of place where reservations were hard to get, and the wine list had bottles worth thousands of dollars. But this restaurant had another reputation, one that only certain people knew about, a reputation that had nothing to do with food. A 32-year-old civil engineer had just parked his car outside. Let's call him by the name he gave authorities later, Mario Rossi. His hands were sweating as he checked his reflection one last time. Tonight was the night. After 3 years of dating Isabella Marchetti, he was finally meeting her parents. The wedding was planned for April. Everything was falling into place. But as he walked through those heavy wooden doors, he had no idea he was walking into a trap that had been carefully set months ago. A trap that had worked successfully 17 times before. Isabella was already seated at a corner table, partially hidden by a decorative partition. She wore a black dress and a nervous smile. Next to her sat her parents, Roberto and Vittoria Marchetti. Roberto, around 60 years old, had silver hair slicked back perfectly and wore a charcoal suit that screamed old money. His eyes were dark, calculating, predatory. Vittoria was elegant in the way that made people uncomfortable, with jewelry that caught the light at every movement and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. They stood when they saw him. Roberto's handshake was firm, too firm, lasting a second too long. Vittoria kissed both his cheeks in the traditional Italian way, but her lips were cold. Isabella squeezed his hand under the table, but her palm was clammy, and she wouldn't meet his eyes. The first glass of wine was poured. "Barolo," Roberto announced, from his family's region in Piedmont. They toasted. "Alla famiglia," Roberto said, raising his glass. To family. Everyone drank except Isabella, who only pretended to sip. The conversation started pleasantly enough. Roberto asked about work, about the engineering firm, about career prospects, standard questions from a future father-in-law. But then the questions shifted. They became more pointed, more invasive, delivered with that same cold smile. "So, you have no siblings?" Roberto asked, cutting into his appetizer with surgical precision. "No, I'm an only child." "And your parents?" Vittoria leaned forward, her diamond necklace swaying. "Isabella mentioned they passed away?" "Yes, 5 years ago. Car accident." A look passed between Roberto and Vittoria. It was brief but unmistakable. Satisfaction, like they'd just confirmed something important. "How tragic," Vittoria said, but her tone was flat, rehearsed. "And you have no other family? Aunts, uncles, cousins?" "Not really. My parents were both only children too. Small family." Roberto nodded slowly, swirling his wine. "And friends? You must have many friends who care about you." It was an odd question, phrased oddly. Not do you have friends, but who cares about you? I have a few close friends from college, but we don't see each other much. Work keeps me busy. And tonight? Roberto's eyes were locked on him now. Does anyone know you're here? Did you tell your friends you were meeting us? The question hung in the air. Isabella's hand tightened around her fork. Her knuckles were white. No, I just said I had dinner plans. Nothing specific. Another look between the parents. Roberto leaned back, satisfied. He said something in Italian to Vittoria, something too quick and quiet to catch. But it included the words perfetto and nessuno saprà. Perfect. No one will know. The main waiter, an older Italian man with graying temples, approached the table. Roberto spoke to him in rapid Italian, pointing at the menu. But it wasn't a normal order. The tone was commanding, authoritative. The waiter's expression never changed, but he nodded and disappeared toward the kitchen. Isabella excused herself suddenly. "Scusa, I need the restroom." Vittoria immediately stood. "I'll join you, Cara." They walked away together, Vittoria's hand firm on Isabella's lower back, guiding her, or controlling her. Roberto made a phone call, speaking in low Italian, then stepped outside to the patio for privacy. That left the table empty, except for him. The restaurant was busy, but not crowded. Soft Italian music played over speakers. Crystal clinked against china. Everything looked normal, but something felt deeply, fundamentally wrong. That's when she appeared, a young waitress, maybe 25 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wasn't his server. She approached the table carrying a water pitcher, but her hands were shaking. She glanced around nervously, making sure no one was watching, then leaned in close as she filled his glass. "Don't drink anything they give you," she whispered in accented English. Her voice was barely audible over the music. "Don't eat the food when it comes." He looked up, startled. "What?" "Shh!" Her eyes were wide with terror. "Listen to me. You need to run, now. Get up and leave, don't make a scene. Just go to the bathroom and leave through the back exit. Run and don't look back." "What are you talking about? Who are you?" "Please." Tears were forming in her eyes. "My brother. He came here last year. With a girl and her family, same table, same situation. He never came home. The police found nothing. Please, I'm begging you, run." Before he could respond, she straightened up and walked away quickly, disappearing into the kitchen. His heart was pounding. His mind raced. Was this some kind of joke? A prank? But the terror in her eyes had been real. He looked around the restaurant. The other diners seemed normal, enjoying their meals. But now he noticed things. The staff. How they avoided looking at his table. How the older waiter who had taken Roberto's order was now standing near the kitchen entrance, watching, guarding. Isabella and Vittoria were returning from the restroom. Isabella's eyes were red, like she'd been crying. Vittoria's grip on her arm was visible, tight enough to leave marks. Roberto came back from his phone call, adjusting his cufflinks. "Bene. The food should arrive soon. We ordered for you. We hope you don't mind. Special dishes. Family recipes not on the regular menu. Family recipes." The waitress's words echoed. Don't eat the food when it comes. He needed to think, to stay calm. "Actually, I'm not feeling well. Might be something I ate earlier. Would you excuse me for a moment? I need to use the restroom." Roberto's smile froze. "Of course, it's just down that hallway." "I'll show him," Isabella said quickly, starting to stand. "No," Roberto said firmly, placing his hand on her shoulder. She sat back down immediately. "Let the man go by himself, Isabella. He's not a child." He walked toward the bathroom hallway, feeling their eyes on his back. The restroom was at the end of a dimly lit corridor, but the waitress had said back exit. He glanced behind him. Roberto was watching, phone in hand. He pushed through the bathroom door, let it swing closed, then immediately pushed it open again and ran down the corridor in the opposite direction. There. Her door marked emergency exit only. Alarm will sound. He hit the bar and burst through. No alarm sounded. The door had been disabled. He was in an alley behind the restaurant. Dark, trash bins, the smell of rotting food. He ran. Behind him he heard shouting in Italian. Heavy footsteps. Roberto's voice yelling, "Fermalo, stop him!" He ran faster than he'd ever run in his life, his dress shoes slapping against wet pavement. He turned a corner, then another, weaving through alleys. He could hear them behind him, at least 2 people, maybe 3. His lungs burned. His heart felt like it would explode. He emerged onto a busy street. People, lights, safety. He flagged down a taxi that was dropping off passengers. "Drive, please, just drive." He threw himself into the back seat. The driver, an elderly black man, saw his terror. "You okay, son? Please, just drive." Downtown police station. Fast. As the taxi pulled away, he looked back. Roberto and another large man in a suit were standing at the alley entrance, watching him leave. Roberto's face was twisted with rage. He said something into his phone, staring directly at the taxi. At the police station, he told his story to a detective named Sarah Chen. She listened carefully, taking notes. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Stay here," she said finally. She left the room and came back 20 minutes later with a thick folder. "The restaurant La Familia," she began, "has been on our radar for 2 years. We've had 17 missing persons cases connected to it. Young men, all between 28 and 35, all engaged to women from Italian families, all last seen having dinner at that restaurant. No bodies ever found, no evidence, nothing." She opened the folder. Photos of missing men stared up at him, different faces, different backgrounds, but the same story. Dinner with fiancé and in-laws, then vanished. "The Marchetti family," Detective Chen continued, "are suspected of being involved in organized crime, human trafficking specifically, but they're careful, very careful. We've never been able to prove anything. The women they use, like your Isabella, most of them are victims too, forced to lure men who fit a profile." "What profile?" "Isolated, no close family, few friends, good income, men who won't be immediately missed. Men whose disappearance might be written off as cold feet before a wedding." He felt sick. "And Isabella?" "We believe she's likely being coerced. Many of these women are. They have family members being held or threatened. They don't help because they can't. But we've never been able to get any of them to testify." "What about the waitress? The one who warned me?" Detective Chen's expression darkened. "What was her name?" "She didn't say. But she mentioned her brother disappeared last year. Same restaurant?" Chen flipped through the folder and stopped at a photo. "Could this be him?" He looked, a young Italian man, maybe 30, smiling in the picture. "I don't know. Maybe." Marco De Lucci. Disappeared November 2018. He was engaged to a woman named Sofia Marchetti, Roberto's niece. His sister Giuliana works at La Familia. She's tried to warn others before, but no one believed her until it was too late. She's been trying to gather evidence for 2 years. Chen closed the folder. "You're the first one who actually got away. The first one who listened and ran. You're also the first one who can testify about what happened tonight, about the specific threats and the chase. With your testimony, we might finally have enough to get warrants to search that restaurant to bring them in." Over the next 3 weeks, everything unraveled. With proper warrants, police raided La Familia and the Marchetti family compound. They found evidence of human trafficking operations stretching across 3 states, secret rooms beneath the restaurant, documents, bank records, and in a property outside the city, they found remains. 17 sets of remains. The missing men, Roberto and Vittoria Marchetti, were arrested along with 12 other family members and associates. The investigation revealed a horrifying operation. Wealthy families in Italy would pay enormous sums for disappeared individuals who could be exploited for labor, organs, or worse. The victims were specifically chosen to be unmissed, their disappearances unlikely to trigger serious investigations. Isabella testified against her family in exchange for immunity. She revealed she'd been forced to participate after her younger brother was kidnapped at 15 and held as collateral. She'd helped lure 5 men to their deaths before the guilt became unbearable. She was moved into witness protection. Giuliana De Lucci, the brave waitress who had warned him, also testified. She'd been trying to sabotage her family's operation from the inside for 2 years, ever since her brother Marco became a victim. Her testimony was crucial in securing convictions. The trial lasted 8 months. Roberto Marchetti was sentenced to 17 consecutive life sentences without parole. Vittoria received the same. Others in the organization received sentences ranging from 30 years to life. The restaurant was permanently closed and later demolished. But the man at the center of this story, the one who ran when a stranger told him to run, never fully recovered. He moved to a different city, changed his name legally. He doesn't date anymore. He has nightmares about what would have happened if he'd ignored that warning. If he'd taken just one bite of that food. If he'd been too polite to offend his future in-laws by leaving, he thinks about the 17 men who weren't warned, who trusted their fiancés, who wanted to make a good impression, who never made it home, and he thinks about Giuliana, the waitress who risked everything to save a stranger, who finally got justice for her brother, who saved his life with 3 whispered words: run. Now. Don't ask questions. Sometimes trusting your instincts and listening to warnings from strangers can mean the difference between life and death. This man learned that lesson. 17 others never got the chance. If this story affected you, please take a moment to hit the like button and share this video. Human trafficking is real and happens in places we'd never expect. If you or someone you know needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline. The number is on screen now. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more true crime stories, and remember, sometimes when someone tells you to run, you run. X.